You're listening to
Path of the Jedi
with your host, Ronnie Cruz.
All right, welcome to our inaugural episode of Path of the Jedi, the podcast that was created because us geeks need personal development too. Now, what is this podcast about? Well, Path of the Jedi is what happens when personal development meets Star Wars. These are two deep passions of mine. I love personal development. I love Star Wars. And so I wanted to share personal development with you all through the lens of Star Wars. But more about that in just a little bit. I first and foremost want to introduce myself. My name is Ronnie Cruz, self-professed geek, and I am your host for this amazing adventure that really honestly has been a long time coming. I've been toying around with the idea of starting a podcast for a little while now, and I just never got around to it. You know, I just kept putting it off. It's something completely foreign to me, completely out of my wheelhouse. And so because of that, I was unconsciously avoiding it, right? So finally, recently, I just said to myself, screw it, just dive in. Just go ahead and pull the trigger, and whatever other cliches you want to throw in there. Let's just make this happen. For better, for worse, let's launch Path of the Jedi. Now, I've been a Star Wars fan pretty much my entire life, and I'm going to talk about that in just a little bit. But I wanted to really dedicate this episode to answering the question, who am I? Now, to start off with just some basic resume type stuff, qualifications, etc. I am a professional network marketer. I've been in this profession of network marketing, direct sales for 15 plus years now as of this recording. I've been with the same company since 2009 and have been full-time since 2013. Now, that's a pertinent fact because it was the network marketing profession that introduced me to personal development, right? Self-development. It put me on this path of growth that really I'm still on today. And this podcast is just the next iteration of that. Now, back when I first got introduced to the network marketing profession and I joined that first company, it was Amway, as a matter of fact. You know, as an aside, a lot of network marketing leaders, a lot of leaders in this profession got their start from Amway. So I have to give them credit for that. I love that company. I wouldn't be here where I am today without having been introduced to Amway. So I joined that company, and the very first book I read was Napoleon Hill's classic, Think and Grow Rich. And really, that book absolutely transformed my life. It still has a huge impact on me today. In fact, I was given some advice many years ago by a dear friend who is no longer with us, but he gave me the advice of reading that book once a year. Well, okay, so let me backtrack, actually. He told me that his mentor told him that if he read that book once a year, he would eventually become a millionaire. And so he gave me that advice, and I've been reading Think and Grow Rich once a year ever since. And I actually give that advice to everybody that's willing to listen. It's a phenomenal book, and as I said, it started me on this journey of personal development, of growth, of self-discovery. Some other resume / qualification type stuff as a result, or actually as an extension of being a professional full-time network marketer and leading big teams. I've been a featured speaker on actually many platforms. Of course, I'm a coach and a mentor, and very recently have become HSOS certified. Now, HSOS stands for Human Success Operating System. And I'm just going to go ahead and read this right off the website. The HSOS is a psychology-based foundation for understanding, influencing, and transforming human behavior for yourself and the clients and audiences you serve. So yeah, basically, I wanted to become HSOS certified to expand and improve my ability as a coach and a mentor, right? Improve my ability to help people achieve the things that they want to achieve in their lives. Some other things I've done in my life, I was a musician for a time. Well, no, not actually for a time. I'm still a musician. I just don't play as much as I used to. I was with an amazing band called Brother Monk. with some incredible individuals, dear friends of mine that I grew up with here in North Carolina. And yeah, that was a tremendous amount of fun. I have a deep passion and love for music. It will always it's been part of my life since I was a small child, and will always be a part of my life. I also was an actor as well. I got bit by the acting bug in high school, and yeah, well, that led to studying acting in college, acting in theater. So yeah, I've done stage work. I've done films. I don't do any acting currently at the moment, but yeah, it's one of those things that I absolutely love, and yeah, I look forward to the day when I'm able to get that back into my life. And the funny thing is, it was acting that actually led me to my present course today, to where I am as a network marketer. I was working on a picture in California. This was back in like 2005, I think, 2005, 2006, around that time. And maybe 2007. But anyways, I was working on a film, and one of my castmates one day on our day off was talking to me about some health products that he was using. And that's how I got introduced to my second company called Zango. And so once I got done with that film and I came back home to North Carolina, I looked at the company, I joined the company, and it was from that company actually led me to meeting the individuals that I partner up with in my current company. Now, as far as my love for Star Wars and where that all fits into this crazy equation, yeah, I mean, I've loved Star Wars pretty much for as long as I could remember. I mean, it's been an indelible part of life, as I know it, especially part of pop culture for the last 40 plus years, right? And so because I was born in that era, there's not a time that I remember Star Wars not existing, right? It's been a huge part of my life. I watched New Hope, I think on Betamax, which is completely dating myself. And then Empire Strikes Back on VHS, which is actually no better. That still dates myself. Both completely extinct mediums. I did catch Return of the Jedi in the movie theater, and then there was the made-for-TV movies. Battle for Endor with Drew Barrymore. I remember actually recording that and watching it over and over again. And of course, Ewok Adventure. The action figures was a big part of my life. I had a neighbor, one of my best friends growing up, and I would always go to his house in the afternoon, especially in the summer times, and he had the best collection of Star Wars figures. So we were always playing in the backyard, building like these. Well, I mean, probably if I look back today, they're just messes. But for us, we built these kind of dioramas, these amazing kind of landscapes, dug them out into the backyard, and just had really the best time playing in this amazing pretend universe that Lucas created, right? And so, yeah, that pretty much carried me through, and again, solidified Star Wars being a huge part of my life. Into the 90s, there was obviously a little bit of a lull. As I got into college in the mid 90s, I was exposed to some of the games that were out for PC, especially a lot of the piloting games, the TIE Fighter and X-Wing type games. And then in the late 90s, when the prequels came out, man, that again, I mean, it's not that I ever fell out of love with Star Wars, but that really rekindled my deep passion for it. I remember when Episode 1 came out, Phantom Menace, like there was merchandise out the wazoo being released. One of the things that I got really into was collecting the different Pepsi cans. I don't know if you guys remember that, but they had Star Wars characters from Phantom Menace on Pepsi cans, on this series of Pepsi cans. And I got obsessed with collecting as many of the different characters that I could on these cans. And I held onto them completely unopened. I had to eventually actually ditch those things because I guess it was the acidity in the soda started eating through the cans, and they started bursting and leaking all over the place. So I don't have those things anymore. They were beautiful collectibles, but yeah, because of the contents, I think they weren't really meant to last and to stay intact. So yeah, I mean that takes us through to like my mid 20s, mid to later 20s, and then of course, the cartoons started coming out, the animated stuff started coming out, even before Clone Wars, right? Even before the CG animation stuff, there was some hand drawn animation that came out in the early 2000s, and then of course Clone Wars after that, and then of course leading up to the most current with the Disney acquisition of Lucasfilms. Since then, they've been just churning out Star Wars material to the point where I can't even keep up, right? Like, as of this recording, I haven't even started, and I'm ashamed. As a Star Wars fan, I'm ashamed to admit this, but I haven't even started watching Bad Batch yet. Yeah, I know. I am a bad Star Wars fan. Well, the only reason why is because I wanted to rewatch the Clone Wars in its entirety leading up to the Bad Batch. So yeah, that's the only reason I'm behind, guys. And you guys know that the Clone Wars is a long series, right? So yeah, I've got some work to do. And then on top of that, there's the books. I've really been getting into the books the last couple of years. And I actually forgot to mention Star Wars Celebration. My first exposure to Star Wars Celebration was in 2012. A friend of mine invited me to meet him down in Orlando. And here's the thing, I had never even knew that Star Wars Celebration existed. So when I was exposed to it in 2012 in Orlando, it absolutely just blew my mind again and fueled an even deeper obsession with Star Wars. So after the 2012 one, I went to, Anaheim in 2015. And then back to Orlando in 2017. And then the last one I went to was in 2019 in Chicago. And so hopefully next year, 2022, everything goes according to plan and we'll get back out to Anaheim. So yeah, I mean, so many things over the years that has continued to fuel and feed my love for Star Wars. So yeah, it's just such a rich world that from a cultural standpoint, again, has been a huge part of life. And it really just resonates with me on so many levels, right? Again, from being this indelible part of pop culture to the universality of the themes that Star Wars touches on and dives into, really. Like, I mean, and this is not any new insight that I'm bringing to the table, but George Lucas did draw on the hero's journey when he created this space saga. And that's why I think people really connect to it, because it's so easy and readily available to see a part of you in any one of the characters, whether it's Luke, Han, Leia, Rey, Lando Calrissian. I mean, come on. Lando is one of the coolest ever. Hello. But you guys know what I mean. And then for me personally, I have an even deeper personal connection to it because of how I was raised and how I grew up. I was actually adopted at a very young age by my uncle and was brought to the U.S. So as a child, not only did I have and hold on to this identity as an orphan, but I immediately connected with Luke because here was a character that was pretty much me, right? I saw myself in Luke. This was a boy that grew up with his uncle and his aunt, and it was that circumstance that really sets him on his hero's journey, his journey of discovery. And this theme is visited over and over again, especially in the films, in all three different trilogies, right? You have Anakin in the first one, who at a very young age was taken from his mother for his own good, right? For his own benefit. And then, of course, Luke in the original trilogy, which we learn through the course of that trilogy, also Leia. And then in the sequel trilogy with Rey, who spends the entire trilogy trying to find and discover who she is. And as she says in the movie,
I need someone to show me my place in all this.
So while Star Wars is this incredible phenomenon that connects with everyone pretty much because of the universality of these themes, it also really connects with me on this deep and personal level because, it is the circumstances of how I grew up that really has set me on this course of my own hero's journey of self-discovery and finding out, again, like Ray said, where my place is in all of this. So to explore the depths of these characters in the Star Wars universe is really to answer the question, who am I? Who is Ronnie Cruz? I'm a musician, I'm an actor, I'm a professional network marketer, I'm a coach, I'm a speaker, I'm a mentor, and now I'm a brand new podcaster. But really, am I all those things? Am I any one of those things at any one time? Or am I none of those things? Going back to the character Rey in the sequel trilogies, I love this character because her journey and story arc in the entire trilogy is seeking out the answer of who am I? And the answer that she comes to at the end is absolutely beautiful in that she doesn't have to be any one thing. She actually makes an active choice in who she is when she says, I'm Rey Skywalker. So, who am I? I'm all those things. I'm none of those things. I am Ronnie Cruz. Well, that wraps up our very first episode of Path of the Jedi. Thank you guys so much for spending the last 15 minutes or so with me. As I said, it's been an absolute adventure, and the great thing is we are just getting started. So tune in to the next episode where we dive into perhaps the most popular and most referenced quotation from the entire Star Wars universe.
Do or do not. There is no try.
So, until next time, be well, be safe, and may the Force be with you. This podcast is not endorsed by the Walt Disney Company nor Lucasfilm Limited, and is intended for entertainment, educational, and informational purposes only. The official Star Wars website can be found at www.starwars.com. Star Wars, all names and sounds and any other Star Wars related items are registered trademarks and or copyrights of Disney and their respective trademark and copyright holders. All original content of this podcast is intellectual property of Path of the Jedi unless otherwise indicated.